Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to give you a commentary of my very first Zwift race. Now I'm going to be honest, I kind of fibbed a little bit in the thumbnail. I did not take first and I ended up getting dropped about halfway through the race. But I am going to still explain some of the key moments and features of Zwift racing and why it's actually been a lot of fun. This was my first race. I've actually done a few other races since then. I've learned a lot of things. This was definitely my worst performance. But yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so now we're starting in the race. And as you can see, we're off to a pretty fast start. I knew going into this race that Zwift starts are intense. They are super fast paced. And if you don't get a good start, you're not going to do well in the race. So I probably burned way too many matches here trying to get a good position off at the start. You can see my watts are pretty high. My heart rate's already starting to go through the roof. And I'm trying to find a good rhythm early and not burn out too quickly. Unfortunately for me, I did end up burning out too quickly. You can see that this pace is so intense that we're starting to form two different groups. This front group that I'm a part of right now, about 25 people, and then a back group of people who just couldn't keep pace with this heavy start. I want to take a moment to discuss this course. This course is in France, and as you can see on the map, it's pretty flat. There's one big hill kind of in the middle, but for the most part, it's flat with a few rolling parts to it. I'll be honest, this map actually really annoyed me. On all of the rolling hills, especially at the start, I could not find the right gear on my bike. I would go way too easy on the downhills and way too hard on the uphills. Part of that was because the elevation map wasn't showing up on these little rolling hills because it didn't last for very long. And it was also at the point where my fitness on the bike, it's just not as good. And so I felt the hills a lot more than I should have, and it affected me a lot more. And so you can see as I'm going up and down these hills that I'm fighting to stay with this pack. Now, speaking of the pack, I want to talk about some of the pack dynamics. One of the coolest things about Zwift racing is how dynamic the pack feels. You can see I'm holding a nice spot here in the group. My wattage is starting to get steady, and I'm able to conserve a little bit of energy for any later parts in the race, which ultimately doesn't matter to me very much because I burnt myself out way too early. But one of the key tactics about Zwift racing is pacing yourself, and the draft effect that comes from riding in the pack, it's completely real. The moment I got dropped, they just cruised away from me, and the efficiency level of riding in the pack, it's insane. You will go farther and faster for the same amount of energy than if you weren't riding in that pack. Might take a little bit of work to stay in that pack, but if you can find a groove and if you can find a rhythm, staying in that pack is actually going to set you up for success throughout the rest of the ride. Alright, so cutting here to a part where I'm starting to feel the effects of this fast start. Things are starting to get interesting. You'll notice that the group is just starting to pull away from me, and I am dangling on the end of it, just trying to keep up, especially when we're going through the rolling hills, or when we're working on it, or when we're passing through the sprint. The riders in the front are staying steady, they're staying together in the pack, and I'm starting to feel it burn. My wattage has gone down, my heart rate has gone up, and as a result, I'm just losing contact with the pack. And here it is, I'm getting dropped. I tried to respond several times, but the effort required to keep up with that pace is just too much, and as I said, it's a lot easier to stay in the pack than to try and catch up to the pack. And that's one of the harsh realities of Zwift racing. The second you lose that draft, you're out of luck, especially in these races where it tends to be a little fast. And when the group starts to split, it's very, very difficult to bridge any gaps. Now that I've been dropped, I'm kind of riding alone, and because I'm riding alone, I'm just trying to stay focused and focusing on goal number 2, which was to keep the riders behind me. I don't want them to catch me, and I am unsuccessful in doing that too. There's, I think, 5 riders who end up catching me, who bridge that gap between the following pack and myself. they never make it up to that front group, but they do end up passing me, and I'm just trying to stay motivated out there. And that's really where a lot of mental gameplay comes into it, because once I left that pack, I lost a lot of my motivation to keep pushing hard. My motivation then was to keep the people from catching me, and once they caught me, my motivation decreased even further down there. And at that point it was just, well, let's make it to the finish line, not worry about place, and see what happens from there. Okay, so now I'm nearing the finish line, and even though I'm not in the main group anymore and I've been caught by a couple of people, I'm still just pushing, trying to finish this race and see what happens to my Zwift racing score. And even if you're not in it for the win, any changes to your Zwift racing score can help determine a better group for you to race in, whether it's faster or slower than what your original score had determined. My Zwift racing score from this race did drop down, and as you can see from this race, I did not do very well. I ended up taking 32nd out of 45. But that is my worst place finish. I did do better in my other races. I'll briefly flash those on the screen just so that you can see. My best place finish was 15th. So I still have a lot of work to do, but Zwift racing is a ton of fun. And yeah, I mean, this is just D category racing too. It shocked me how many fast riders there are out there, and I'm one of the youngest riders on Zwift right now. Most of the people riding are 30 or older, and I'm still mid-20s. But Zwift racing, it's a ton of fun. I'm going to keep doing it. I want to get better. I want to get faster. I have a lot of goals that I want to set, and I mean, triathlon goals, biking goals. I want to ride outside, race outside, but to do that I need to get faster, and Zwift is a great place for you to do those things. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Like this video, comment below anything else that you want to see, and I'll see you next time.